Alright everyone, happy spooky day! Of course it is Halloween. We've got to celebrate by talking about this very strange story here. Fitting timing. Elon Musk causing a Twitter meltdown yesterday. He has deleted the tweet since then, but link in the description, archived of course. Archives are forever. Now, I was posting the archived link actually to the news story that he himself had posted in response here to Hillary Clinton herself, which makes the story 10 times fucking funnier. Because their website went down. They got overwhelmed by people checking out the website, and as clearly they just couldn't compensate. Now, I don't know how many people ended up in the end interacting with this post before it was deleted, but it's quite a few people. More than the average website is going to be capable of compensating for. Anyway, I'm going to read a couple of things here verbatim just to flesh out the tales. Hillary Clinton posted the other day, and this is mostly debunked. We know that David DePape is not a far-right extremist. If anything, appears to have had some sort of drug-induced psychotic breakdown recently, and actually up until relatively recently was posting like leftoid shit. So the idea that this is Trump and MAGA extremism or something is being covered up by the legacy media, big tech, and craptivists like Hillary Clinton, because of course she's not a politician anymore, by the wall of propaganda method that I've talked about before. Simply say a lie, say it loud and proud, and ignore any countermanding of it regardless of the evidence. Jussie Smollett comes to mind. The Covington kids / Nick Sandmann come to mind. Rittenhouse was treated this way. You've had other examples as well. Hunter Biden's laptop, although that was also a lie by omission. The lie, of course, was it's disinfo. We know it's disinfo, but we refuse to look into the laptop. They're going with that methodology because they don't want to be exposed for this being anything other than far-right violence, because that was their knee-jerk coverage of it. They made a presumption that DePape was far-right because it happened to be Pelosi's house. When it turned out they're wrong, they're not going to admit to it till after the midterms. It'd do too much political damage, so don't expect them to do so. They either retire the story or they continue screaming the lie that it's right-wing to try to influence the midterm elections. Here's what Clinton posted. The Republican Party and its mouthpieces now regularly spread hate and deranged conspiracy theories. It is shocking, but not surprising, that violence is the result. As citizens, we must hold them accountable for their words and actions that follow. Of course, this is effectively debunked. David DePape is not a far-right person. He appears to have been intermixed with the manosphere and some elements of meme culture as he slowly degraded himself with drugs, having been a goddamn Green Party member, living in a hippie bus with a pride / weed legalization flag out in front of it, making hemp jewelry and going to nudist weddings and shit. If that's really what Ultra MAGA at this point is about, these people have lost their goddamn minds, and I think that people are beginning to see through it, which is why they're simply peddling the lie louder and louder. Elon Musk decided to show up, and he posted an article, and he said, there is a tiny possibility there might be more to this story than meets the eye. Now, retweeting something is not an endorsement of the material. What Musk is literally saying here is, hey, we have questions. We're not exactly sure that this was motivated by MAGA extremism. It would have been more helpful if you had pointed out one of the articles where he's clearly he's a hemp jewelry making nudist who's smoking weed all day. He's not ultra MAGA. He's a psychopath who meandered way off the goddamn reservation of any notable political movement by this point, because he seems to think that there's a reconciliation between Green Party hemp nudism and MAGA or something like that. Nobody quite knows what the hell he was smoking on the night that he attacked Paulpelosi, by the way. Now, this article makes the claim, and there is no direct evidence for these particular claims. I think that DePape was just a drug-induced crazy, probably had stalked Nancy Pelosi for some time prior. My theory and my prediction about what finally will be revealed is that he's going to be one of those people, a Berkeley living constituent of the Pelosis directly within that district, presumptively had been like emailing her about legalizing hemp farming or, nude casinos or something like that, had probably habitually done that for months, if not years, never got a response, and finally he got high enough to show up at the house to try to speak to Nancy Pelosi. Thus a tussle ensued. There are strange things about this case. If you listen to some of the scanner releases, The fact that the door appears to have been opened to the police by a third party, or it's at least insinuated the possibility. The fact that Pelosi and this individual were both armed when the cops showed up and apparently in their underwear. There are weird things about this story. The particular observed article that Elon links here cannot be verified, of course. It's there in the archive, though. The website might still be down, so you can read it at your leisure. The claim is that DePape was a gay prostitute, and that what they were doing in there was scandalously sexual. That there's a resultant cover-up because having that happen right before the midterms would be bad. So despite the fact that the dude is a nudist who's making hemp jewelry and living in the hippie bus next to an iboga clinic, quite literally, in Berkeley of all places, very much MAGA territory, just like with Jussie Smollett, by the way, that's all a cover. That's to try to save face, because otherwise you end up with a major scandal enrapturing one of the top Democrats' husbands, and that wouldn't look good. It would be too cringeworthy and too hilarious to people. You wouldn't be able to think of the Democratic Party as a serious political movement at that point, so you simply lie. It sort of does resemble, assuming that story is true, it sort of resembles the Hunter Biden laptop situation. Hunter Biden's laptop is real. The content that was put out by Roger Stone and others was real. The legacy media claimed declaratively that it was a disinfo campaign. We now know that that is not true. And they should have known that, because had they actually looked into the details, which were fishy as fuck, they would have recognized it as real. But that was during an election, so they didn't want to admit to it. They're doing exactly the same thing with the DePape story. When all dies down after the midterms, there will be eventually a tacit apology, a half-assed one at that, by elements of the legacy media, big tech, etc., saying, whoops, yeah, we probably should have looked into the story more, because it turns out he wasn't actually a far-right MAGA extremist. He was just goddamn off his rocker. He was a stalkerish constituent. He was actually a hemp-farming leftoid and just got involved in weird conspiracy theories. By the way, when they invoke QAnon as though there's a corroboration that he himself was part of that particular cult-like mentality, that's a bullshit push by liberals. And I've said that now for years. That Nostradamus-style schizo posting you see on 4chan is being pushed by leftoids to try to distract conservatives and make them think there's some great big plan behind the scenes to save them, so they don't need to get up off their ass and go canvass or knock on doors or something like that. Don't worry, guys, we've got it. Just stay at home and make another shitpost, basically. The meltdown here is massive. You immediately get the legacy media attacking Elon Musk, and he's trolling them as we speak. The New York Times put out a hit on him and said, well, he's sharing out a link to a site known for disinformation and fake news. And he responded directly and said, no, that's false. I didn't share out a link to the New York Times. He's stepping in stride here. He's getting a huge amount of attention for himself and the platform. He's deliberately antagonizing the left, by the way, because he knows a lot of the advertisers will leave anyway, which is why he's switching to that private sort of model of trying to make money with Twitter, because he realizes that the ad-driven internet, and I realized this many years ago, is a bad idea because it gives leverage by politically motivated lynch mobs over content creation. It effectively creates a mob mentality, sort of like a mafia state thing on the internet. It doesn't work. He seems to realize this. Good for him. Well, hopefully he can figure things out. By the way, now he's optioning bringing Vine back. Another suggestion that I think that I made many moons ago. I think it'd be a good idea. I love the meltdown. Hillary, I guess, didn't respond. She's probably like, oh, for the love of Christ. I can't even post demonstrably fake things anymore without the CEO and leader of the site calling me out and trolling me. Oh my God, my echo chamber is broken. And Musk, of course, has a lot more clout with the tech sort of world than Hillary Clinton will ever have. She's tired and washed up and doesn't understand anything, hence her deplorables moments. I like this, even though, again, the story itself cannot be corroborated. The idea that DePape was there for a gay tryst is probably not true. But there are a million different questions to ask about this, and journalists aren't asking them. They're just describing it to MAGA and calling it a day. And so this helps to break through that echo chamber to some degree, which I find to be quite helpful. That's about all. Peace out.